Atlantis was over there. It's not over there. It's not there now. The whole block is just residential now, completely demolished. And this particular alleyway, running from there in that direction, if you've seen A Hard Day's Night, you'll have seen the Beatles at the beginning of the film. All four of them running along this alleyway in that direction. Over here was a visualising studio owned by friends of mine working for the advertising business called Helicopter. Also, the other side of this alleyway, I worked with my friend Paul on Raymond Briggs when the wind with lots of us in there, squeezed up. And before we were there, they made the snowman there. Now, there used to be an amazing watch up in Connacht's Toy Museum. To come here for research, looking for ideas for campaigns. You might not even have a spark of an idea, but you can just come in here and look around. And it would always be an inspiration in this place. It's such a shame. There used to be part of it was a museum. And I don't know how they managed it in this space, but they did. And it was just a great place, and it's such a shame that it's closed down now. But the whole area changed. It's all part of Fitzrovia. But we're now going to go towards Rathbone Place, which is also an interesting place that's changed over the years. So, yeah, this little alleyway, Percy Passage, featured in the film Peeping Tom by Emeric Pressburger. And when I was working at Cartoon Network as an art director, we filmed in a studio down there, which was used by Ridley Scott for the space sequences with all the spaceships in Alien. So in my book of short stories, Soho in the Dark, there's a story called Last One In, which is set in Bloomsbury. It's on the left there, just behind me, where Great Gloucester Street is. You can see Centrepoint just beyond it. Right, I mentioned this shop in my story too, Cornelison of Bloomsbury. It's been supplying artists and printmakers since 1855. Kept its original shop front at 105 Great Russell Street. In the early 90s, I worked in that building, a company called Grand Slam Productions. We created the first 2 episodes of the Peter Rabbit TV series. While we were working on that, it's when my fellow layout artist Dave, he got locked in on a Friday night. And he did manage to escape through a tiny window onto the roof of the British Museum buildings at the back. And he had to be allowed into a building that had 2 girls in it, recording small archaeological finds. They let him in after bringing the caretaker. Here we have the British Museum, the main part of it, just over there. But as we swing around this way, you see they have all these side buildings, and they actually use those small offices up there as well, above the shops. So when my friend Dave finally climbed out of the studio, he got into one of those buildings there behind, at the back of those buildings. What an adventure, 4 old days. Nicholas Hawksmoor worked with Christopher Wren after the fire of London on the design of St Paul's Cathedral. Peter Ackroyd implies that Hawksmoor was involved in occult secret societies. Each of the churches has a sacrificial victim buried in the down below before the building, in the foundations, which is probably not true. But anyway, it makes for a good story. So here we are behind Conway Hall, used for music venue as well, just over here. And Red Lion Square is just behind us. But behind this building here is Holborn, which is part of the rat race. So it's such a surprise to have a wonderful location like this to escape to. So this is a museum street, and quite important again for me because there's a bookshop in this street, famous one called the Atlantis bookshop, another cult bookshop. And we're going to walk in there now and see if Geraldine, the lady who owns the shop, will very kindly give us a interview.
I'm Geraldine Beskin, and I'm sitting literally in the Atlantis bookshop in London. We're 103 years old, and we've always sold the Western mysteries. We were started by a non-observant Jewish immigrant lad who was a poet, and he was interested in all these things. Like everybody else, he joined the Theosophical Society and then grew from there in lots of ways, ran a magical order himself. Then he became initiated as a witch, because witchcraft was illegal until 1951, and Gerald Gardner had approached him, and Gardner is the grandfather of the modern day witchcraft revival. So we had a clandestine coven downstairs for years, and then we had a legal one after 1951 as well. We had a dinner party here in 2004, the only one we've ever had, and the windows at the back were exposed at the time, and they all had a tall vase with a single flower in them, and I was sitting closest to them, and one of the vases pulled itself off the windowsill, hovered in the air till I'd said, "Look," to everybody, and they weren't even drunk at the time. It was early on in the dinner party, and then once it had got everybody's attention, it just put itself gently onto the floor. There's a Rudolf Steiner bookshop further down Museum Street. The Emeric Press that published Moonchild and various other things for Crowley was further down the street as well. And Austin Spare, Dion Fortune, Yeats, Tolkien, you name them. And still, you know, everybody's involved with stuff comes to us. Well, the Golden Dawners saw this being built in 1888. And I do like the conceit that they would have seen our lovely frontage go up. They would have touched our doorknobs and come in just to be nosy, because I don't know what it was then, but it was an antique gallery before Michael Houghton moved here. He moved here in 1939, having been round the corner, but that got bombed. So we came here with just a tarpaulin for a window with no glass, and the building across the road on fire for a week.
One of my favourite writers was in the Arthur Machen part of the Golden.
Oh yes, yes.
Great.
Yeah.
And which brings me to my book that you very kindly stocked, and you've sold out of the batch that you bought, haven't you?
Yes, indeed we have, and I have this one you inscribed for me at home by my bed, and that's where it's going to stay for a while, because I was reading it, and you're so lovely, and we've known each other a long, long time. I didn't know you had a dark soul. I really didn't.
Oh.
It's too horrid for me to read in bed. I can't read it in the dark. It's just plain horrible. But the trouble is, it's well written. It makes you want to read more. But I can cope with ghosts. I can cope with all sorts of things. But the horribleness of which you write is not my flavour. No,
challenge, yeah.
It is. But I love you all the more for it, because you kept it hidden all these years.
Geraldine, thank you so much for your time.
A great pleasure.
Amazing. So that brings us to the end of a little tour of Bloomsbury and parts of Fitzrovia. I like the idea that it's got a little element of enigma to it that I've tried to capture in my stories. So I hope you found this of interest.